You're a guy from MIT, and here you are writing a book about technology. How did that happen?
Like most teenagers, I was an ardent fan of technology. I mean, I looked forward to a day when we'd all be flying around in little glass bubbles like they did in the Jetsons, or flying in outer space like they do in Star Trek. And in fact, I gave up wrestling in the 8th grade because it conflicted with um, the afternoon showing of Star Trek in my area. But gradually, as I went into my later teens, I think I became disillusioned. And I remember the time, for example, when my father got one of the first word processors ever made. And of course, the whole idea of that was to save the time and trouble of writing and make it go a lot faster and easier. And my dad spent so much time with that device, I almost never saw him again. And although I probably wasn't able to articulate it to myself in so many words, I think the seed of doubt was planted in my head, and that grew into a conviction that really we've gotten to the point in our world today where technology is actually making life harder, not easier. Well, the main point of the book is to try to determine just how much technology is really necessary for a full and leisurely life. It's a story about an adventure that my wife and I took for about a year and a half, living amongst a people that were so primitive in their technology that even Amish groups consider them antiquated. It's a group right here in the United States. I mean, there's some obvious reasons that you could think about just in your own life, just the amount of time and work you have to put in to earn the money to pay for a lot of the more expensive devices like automobiles and the maintenance for automobiles as the price of gas goes up. But there are also more subtle reasons, and I think the one that I focus on in the book, that's implied throughout the book, is how technology has fragmented our lives. It has displaced us from our own native capabilities in a number of different areas, and we respond by trying to recover those capabilities in other times and places than while we're engaged in our technological activity. So we're always on the go and running errands and moving around in cars. We go to the gym, we take a trip to the gym, we have to go to this, that, and the other place to try to obtain what it was that we formerly got all in one place and time in an earlier society. Just as an example, it used to be that to get from point A to point B, most of the time would just walk. They'd use their own two legs. And look what happens when you do that. Look at all the things that are going on. First, you're getting the exercise you need by just walking along the ground, and leg exercise is the most beneficial there is for your heart. Secondly, since you're out in the open walking through the neighborhood, you're liable to bump into people you know, or maybe over time gradually get to know people that you see as you pass. So it's a social activity as well. Another thing that's going on, you're out of doors, so you're experiencing nature. And if you live in a neighborhood with beautiful architecture, such as I do today in St. Louis, there's an aesthetic dimension. You're appreciating some amount of beauty. There's even another level that walking is very conducive to meditation or daydreaming. Famous inventors have gotten their best ideas when they went out for a walk. So a lot of things can go. It's a many-layered kind of multidimensional activity. But when you use a car to do the same thing, you're only achieving the bare minimum goal of getting from point A to point B. You don't get the exercise. It's probably very asocial, if not antisocial, to be in a car. It's not very contemplative, especially not in heavy rush hour traffic. It's liable to be stressful. And it's hardly aesthetic. You're seeing billboards and other vehicles wheeling by. So what happens is you've got to make up for all of that lost time you spend in a car. And today we spend, on the average in our society, 2 hours a day in a car alone. That's just one device. And we take on the average, well, every household on the average takes 11 trips in a car per day. So that's just one device. We're not even talking about computers, how much time we sit motionless in front of that machine. Television, how much time we spend motionless in front of that machine, or all the other devices that are worrying about around us. And we've got to always make up for all that lost time. So it creates fragmentation, and out of one many-layered activity, we now have 2, 3, 4, 5 different tasks. So that's what I talk about in the book, and I see this community that we live in, even though they use very little technology, turns out they have more free time and a deeper sense of leisure, because those many-layered satisfactions that you get from the holistic activity, pre-technological activity, are there, present in their lives, richly so. The book is a quest to try to answer the question, how much technology is really necessary for a full and leisurely life? And I think the starting assumption is, and that's filled out in the opening chapter of the book, that we've gone too far with technology, that there's so much technology that what might have been a good thing in a smaller quantity is actually a very bad thing in a larger quantity. Like if you have water is a good thing in the right amount, but when the dam gives way and the flood pours over the city, that same water becomes a bad thing. And I think that's what's happening today with technology. We're up to our eyeballs in it, and we're drowning in it, and it's impeding our ability to do what we want to do. Not only family life, every aspect of life. Because when you have technology that in a small dose can make your life easier, in a large dose it replaces your life. And so you've got to go back and pick up the pieces. Technology is doing the things for us that we'd be better off doing on our own. And the only answer to that is to go back and recover what technology is doing, but then we've created extra work for ourselves. We have the technological activity and the maintenance of the technology, plus the recovery operation that we've got to go through. That's why people use phrases like quality time to create quality time with family. That never existed until technology became so prevalent. That's why people have to drive their cars to the gym to get exercise. That's why people have to take special trips to national parks to get a dose of Mother Nature. This is all unnecessary duplication. If we just had less technology, we wouldn't be needing to do that. The fact that people spend so much time in the car has created a demand for devices that can be used in a car, not just cell phones, but of course stereo equipment, and there are even cars with television sets in them. And because if you're going to spend half your life in a car, you want to be entertained.